Chu Feng's road has crossed a threshold no ordinary cultivator could survive. He has inherited the divine punishment mysterious technique, stepped into the Half Martial Ancestor realm, and learned that every future breakthrough may summon a tribulation capable of erasing both body and soul. Ahead lies the Hundred Refinements Ordinary Realm, the murderous Infant Soul Sect, the vanished Moon Immortal, and mysteries surrounding the four great divine beasts. Yet before Chu Feng leaves his father behind, Chu Xuanyuan poses a deceptively simple question. When appearances, rumors, and hidden deeds all conflict, how can one truly judge whether a person is good or evil? Someone has been arguing over the chessboard again. The tea has gone cold, and I can hear a few familiar wanderers pretending they were never gone. Come closer, daoists, there is fresh water in the kettle, old stories on the table, and enough trouble waiting beyond the Hundred Refinements Stage to make even a seasoned swordsman reconsider his travel plans. Tonight our tale begins not with a blade drawn, but with a question sharp enough to cut through reputation, loyalty, and the human heart. The words fell softly, yet to Chu Feng they sounded like thunder striking the depths of his soul.
Divine punishment.
His heart shivered. He had yet to witness this mysterious technique, yet its name alone carried a terrifying weight. Heaven punishment was already something capable of making ordinary cultivators tremble. For something to stand above, even that, what sort of calamity could it summon?
Divine punishment is a self-punishing mysterious technique that stands above heaven punishment. Mortal punishment draws upon the lightning within one's bloodline. Earthen punishment draws upon the earth. Heaven punishment draws upon the sky. But divine punishment is different. It no longer merely draws upon lightning. When you attempt a breakthrough, a divine tribulation will descend upon you. That tribulation carries power capable of bringing destruction to heaven and earth. It is power that surpasses what one should be able to endure.
The explanation grew heavier with every word. This was no ordinary cultivation method, where suffering merely tested resolve. The very foundation of divine punishment was contradiction. To advance, its practitioner had to withstand a force explicitly greater than what he should be capable of surviving.
If you wish to break through, you must endure that power. There are only two outcomes: success or failure. And if you fail, not even your soul will remain. The punishments created by the other self-punishing mysterious techniques are still within the limits a cultivator can endure. Divine punishment deliberately exceeds those limits. That is precisely why those who cultivate it undergo a genuine transformation with every breakthrough.
Death without even a soul remaining. Such a price would make countless martial cultivators turn away before taking the first step. Yet Chu Feng did not dismiss the technique. Instead, his expression became increasingly serious.
Father, has anyone ever successfully cultivated such a terrifying self-punishing mysterious technique?
Divine punishment is not something anyone can simply attempt. As far as I know, only two people have ever cultivated it.
Chu Feng's curiosity surged.
Ugh.
The first was your grandfather, Chu Xianxia, and the second was me, your father, Chu Xuanyuan.
Chu Feng froze. Until that moment, a part of him had still considered finding some reason to refuse. But those two names destroyed every excuse before it could leave his mouth. His grandfather had walked this road. His father had walked it as well. Both had survived. For Chu Feng, the question suddenly became larger than danger. It touched pride, bloodline, and the legacy of two men whose achievements towered before him. If he retreated, without even attempting the road they had conquered, he knew that the harshest judgment would not come from outsiders, it would come from himself. And once he learned that both Chu Xianxia and Chu Xuanyuan had cultivated divine punishment, fear was no longer the only emotion burning within him. Curiosity appeared beside it, then ambition.
Fenja, your grandfather never forced me to cultivate the divine punishment mysterious technique. I will not force you either. I am telling you this because the decision must belong to you. Heaven punishment or divine punishment, you choose which path you wish to cultivate.
There was almost no pause.
Divine punishment.
Chu Feng had already made his decision.
Why? Are you not afraid of death?
I am. I do not believe there is anyone who truly does not fear death.
Then why insist on divine punishment?
Father, I am not choosing it because I am arrogant, conceited, or reckless. I simply want greater achievements. I want to prove myself. The path of martial cultivation has always been a double-edged sword. If one wishes to travel farther than others, one must also face greater dangers. The road I am choosing is dangerous, but I am not the first to walk it. Before me, grandfather walked it. You walked it. Compared to the road you faced, the road that has reached me is already safer. At the very least, I know that this road can be walked. So there is no reason for me not to choose divine punishment.
There was an important distinction in Chu Feng's reasoning. He was not blindly gambling his life for pride. He had evidence before him. Two predecessors of his own bloodline had already survived the same path. The danger remained monstrous, but it was no longer an unknown abyss. A smile finally appeared on Chu Xuanyuan's face.
Well said. As expected of my son. Fenja, your thinking is correct. Divine punishment is extremely dangerous, but the harvest it offers is correspondingly great.
Chu Xuanyuan then turned from the danger of the technique to the true significance of the heavenly lightning bloodline.
Those who possess heavenly lightning bloodlines share certain characteristics. You have already seen that brat from the Ying heavenly clan. He possessed powers similar to yours: the thunder armor, the thunder wings that raise cultivation, and heaven-defying battle power. But once a heavenly lightning bloodline wielder reaches the martial ancestor realm, the bloodline undergoes a transformation. The 9 heavenly lightnings fuse into one. This is known as the 9 lightnings fusion.
The 9 lightnings fusion was not merely another increase in raw strength. It marked a fundamental evolution of the bloodline itself, and the self-punishing mysterious technique chosen before that point would determine what emerged afterward.
After the 9 lightnings fusion, a lightning mark will form. Those who cultivate mortal punishment form a mortal mark. Those who cultivate earthen punishment form an earthen mark. Those who cultivate heaven punishment form a heaven mark. And those who cultivate the divine punishment mysterious technique form a divine mark.
The meaning behind that single mark was immense. It would reveal not only that its owner possessed a heavenly lightning bloodline, but also the grade of self-punishing mysterious technique he had dared to cultivate.
But appearance and reputation are not the important part. The stronger the lightning mark, the greater the power it grants its master. It also affects the heights that person may reach in the future. In other words, the lightning mark represents both status and strength. Once you form a divine mark, very few people will dare treat you with disrespect. Not everyone possesses the courage to cultivate divine punishment. More importantly, it is not something anyone can practice merely because they desire it.
This was why divine punishment was more than a dangerous technique. It was a declaration of potential. The divine mark would carry the evidence of every life or death tribulation its owner had survived. In a world where strength determined how one was treated, such a mark would speak before its master even raised a hand. Chu Feng's hesitation had completely vanished. The more he understood, the more impatient he became to discover just what kind of power was hidden within divine punishment.
Father, I understand.
Chu Xuanyuan studied him once more.
Fenja, have you truly decided?
I have. I will cultivate the divine punishment mysterious technique.
Then I, your father, will teach you its cultivation method.
Chu Xuanyuan raised one hand and placed a finger against Chu Feng's forehead.
There will be some pain. Endure it.
Amen.
Light suddenly blazed from Chu Xuanyuan's fingertip. In the next instant, A vast and unfathomable power poured directly from Chu Xuanyuan into Chu Feng's head.
Ugh.
Pain exploded through his consciousness. For an instant Chu Feng felt as though his skull could no longer contain what was entering it, as though his head might burst beneath the pressure. Yet that agony was merely the beginning. The pain spread from his head, through every part of his body. Flesh, blood, bones, meridians, none seemed able to escape it. But as Chu Feng endured, he gradually realized that the invading power was doing something far more profound than simply entering his body. It was reaching for his soul. It was reaching for his bloodline. This was the true terror of divine punishment. It was not a technique Chu Feng could simply activate and dismiss when convenient. The inheritance was seeking to become part of his very existence, something bound to his soul, an heavenly lightning bloodline, destined to accompany him through life breakthroughs and death. At last the terrifying sensation faded. Chu Feng stood, drenched in sweat, breathing heavily. The pain was gone, yet the memory of it lingered like the echo of heavenly thunder after a storm.
Father, was that the divine punishment mysterious technique?
Chu Feng could already sense how different it was from every mysterious technique he had cultivated before. Ordinary mysterious techniques required a cultivator to circulate martial power along designated paths, stabilize cultivation, and strengthen oneself through controlled practice. Divine punishment obeyed no such simple pattern. It was a method that fused with the soul itself. Chu Feng had not truly begun cultivating it yet, but he could already tell that once he did, his inherited bloodline would undergo a profound change.
That is the divine punishment mysterious technique. How does it feel?
Extremely good. I feel as though my inherited bloodline, my soul, and even my physical body have all been elevated. I want to experience the true power of divine punishment right now.
He meant every word. The agony he had just endured had not frightened away his desire. Instead, sensing even the faintest transformation within his heavenly lightning bloodline only made his hunger for the completed technique stronger. And this may be the clearest difference between Chu Feng and an ordinary cultivator, where many would remember only the pain. He immediately focused on the strength hidden beyond it. Yet that hunger for power would soon force him toward the very threshold his cultivation had not yet reached.
Since you want to experience its true charm, then go ahead and cultivate it.
Chu Feng stared at his father in astonishment.
Father, doesn't the divine punishment mysterious technique require me to become a half martial ancestor before I can cultivate it?
Although divine punishment had already entered his soul, and bloodline Chu Feng could clearly sense that the fusion was incomplete. More importantly, completing that fusion was not something his will alone could command. His cultivation realm was the key. At his present level, the divine punishment mysterious technique could not completely merge with his heavenly lightning bloodline. But once he reached the Half Martial Ancestor realm, that final fusion would happen automatically. That point carried a frightening consequence. Once Chu Feng crossed into the Half Martial Ancestor realm, the choice he had just made would become irreversible. Even if fear seized him later, divine punishment would already be bound to him. There would be no road back.
Indeed. You must first become a Half Martial Ancestor.
But my cultivation is still insufficient.
Chu Xuanyuan answered, as though the obstacle Chu Feng spoke of were nothing more than a small stone lying across the road.
That is simple. Your father will help you step into the Half Martial Ancestor realm right now.
And with that single sentence, the true weight of the moment was revealed. Chu Feng had chosen divine punishment, accepted a cultivation path where failure could erase even his soul, and bound that path to his bloodline. Now Chu Xuanyuan intended to remove the final barrier immediately. The Half Martial Ancestor realm, the threshold that would make divine punishment truly awaken, was suddenly within reach. Chu Xuanyuan's words had barely faded when he turned his palm upward. A soft gleam gathered over his hand, and in the next instant, a jadate-like gem rested upon his palm. It looked small enough to disappear between two fingers, yet the natural energy sealed within it was so dense that even Chu Feng immediately sensed its extraordinary nature.
Refine this and Yao will be able to directly become a Half Martial Ancestor.
Father, this gem.
Chu Feng accepted the gem, unable to conceal the excitement rising within him. Throughout his cultivation journey, he had devoured countless natural oddities and refined mountains of cultivation resources. Yet never before had he encountered something containing natural energy of such terrifying purity and concentration. At his present level, the holy land of martialism could scarcely provide resources capable of moving his cultivation forward. And yet this single gem casually produced by Chu Xuanyuan was said to carry enough power to lift Chu Feng from rank 7 Martial Emperor straight into rank 1 Half Martial Ancestor. 3 breakthroughs from 1 treasure. For the Chu Feng who had fought for every scrap of cultivation energy throughout his life, such an advancement was almost beyond imagination. More importantly, this single gem silently revealed the gulf, separating the holy land of martialism from the greater world beyond.
All these years your father has never helped you with your cultivation. The reason was that I wanted you to experience everything personally and temper your own heart. This time consider it compensation from your father.
There was a light smile on Chu Xuanyuan's face. His words were simple, yet behind them lay the reasoning of a father who had deliberately refused to pave his son's road with treasures. Chu Xuanyuan had possessed the means to accelerate Chu Feng's growth all along. He simply chose not to. In his eyes, cultivation was not merely the accumulation of energy. Without hardship, judgment, failure, danger, and choices made with one's own life, at stake even overwhelming power, could rest upon a fragile foundation.
Thank you, Father.
Chu Feng rose and respectfully bowed.
Didn't I tell you there's no need to be so overly courteous? We are father and son. Go ahead and refine it.
Chu Feng wasted no time. He tossed the gem upward, caught it between his teeth, swallowed its power into himself, then sat cross-legged and began refining. Almost immediately, a torrent of natural energy erupted within his body. Wave after wave poured toward his dantian like a vast river, breaking through its banks, only to be seized and refined by the divine lightnings dwelling within him. His aura surged. Rank 8 Martial Emperor, then rank 9 Martial Emperor, and then 8 bolts of lightning burst from Chu Feng's body. They roared around him with dazzling divine might before rushing back inside, as though returning to their sovereign. In that instant the barrier shattered. Rank 1 Half Martial Ancestor. Chu Xuanyuan's claim had not contained the slightest exaggeration. From rank 7, Martial Emperor Chu Feng had crossed 3 cultivation levels in one breath and entered an entirely new realm. There was no thunder armor upon him, no thunder wings unfolded behind his back, no temporary amplification technique distorted his cultivation. The aura flowing from Chu Feng was genuinely that of a rank 1 Half Martial Ancestor. Yet his cultivation realm was not the only thing that had transformed. His heaven-defying battle power had risen another level as well. It could now surmount 6 levels of cultivation. This was the frightening nature of Chu Feng's advancement. A breakthrough for an ordinary cultivator meant stronger martial power. A breakthrough for Chu Feng also strengthened the monstrous advantage that allowed him to fight far above his realm. On paper, he had only become a rank 1 Half Martial Ancestor. In battle, the meaning was far greater.
Chu Feng suddenly swept out his hand.
Ancestral-level martial power in the surroundings immediately stirred. It surged toward him from every direction and entered his body, obediently gathering there ready to answer his command.
How do you feel?
I can finally grasp ancestral-level martial power. Half Martial Ancestors really are incomparable to martial emperors. And my battle power can now surmount 6 levels of cultivation. I'm not merely a little stronger than before. This feeling is truly fabulous.
Excitement rang openly in Chu Feng's voice. After struggling through the martial emperor realm, he could finally feel the power of the next great boundary in his own hands. But Chu Xuanyuan's next words immediately placed that excitement into a far harsher perspective.
Half martial ancestors are naturally much more powerful than martial emperors. As for your heaven-defying battle power, while saying that it can surmount 6 levels is correct, it would be more reasonable to say that it can surmount 3.
Surmount 3 levels.
Chu Feng's brows tightened in confusion.
Anyone capable of becoming a martial emperor already possesses heaven-defying battle power, capable of surmounting 3 levels of cultivation. And forget the upper realms. Even throughout the ordinary realms, martial emperors are countless. In the outer world, the martial emperor realm is a dividing line. Only those capable of reaching it are considered qualified to truly be called martial cultivators. Those who cannot even enter the martial emperor realm are considered extremely inferior there and are looked upon with disdain.
The words fell like cold rain upon Chu Feng's understanding of the martial world.
Since even an ordinary martial emperor possesses battle power, capable of surmounting 3 levels, your ability to surmount 6 means that against such opponents your true advantage is merely 3 additional levels. Furthermore, the enemies you face from now on will certainly not be martial emperors or those beneath them. They will possess cultivation beyond the martial emperor realm. So remember this from this moment onward. Even when your opponent is ordinary, the dominance you truly hold should be regarded as heaven-defying battle power, capable of surmounting 3 levels.
This was not Chu Xuanyuan belittling his son. It was a deliberate recalibration of Chu Feng's standards. The measuring stick of the holy land of martialism had become useless. If Chu Feng continued judging himself by the weakest lower realm, pride itself could become a hidden enemy.
I never imagined that martial emperors who can practically cover the sky with one hand in the holy land of martialism are merely people who have only just qualified as martial cultivators in the outer world.
Only now did Chu Feng understand even more clearly why the holy land of martialism, the ancestral martial lower realm, was considered the weakest among countless lower realms. The experts who stood at the summit here, worshipped by innumerable cultivators, would be utterly unremarkable when placed against the vast population of the outer world.
Benji, you are still young. Once you enter the outer world, you will discover that even with 3 additional levels of heaven-defying battle power, compared to ordinary half-martial ancestors, you are still not necessarily the strongest among your generation. The outer world contains many heavenly clans. Beyond the humans possessing heavenly bloodlines, there are also monstrous beasts with tremendously powerful inherited bloodlines. And once you reach that world, you will also discover that genuine divine bodies can be extraordinarily powerful.
Could divine bodies in the outer world truly be powerful enough to contend against our heavenly bloodlines?
Chu Feng had encountered numerous divine bodies within the holy land of martialism. They had indeed been formidable, but in his experience their strength was generally comparable to imperial bloodlines. Compared with his own inherited bloodline, they had seemed vastly inferior powers, belonging to entirely different levels.
It differs from person to person. Weak divine bodies are just like those you encountered here. They may only rival imperial bloodlines, and some are even weaker than imperial bloodlines. But there are also tremendously powerful divine bodies. Some can contend against our heavenly bloodline, and some possess powers surpassing even ordinary wielders of heavenly bloodlines. In the outer world, there are relatively many divine bodies of that caliber.
Again the horizon expanded. Heavenly bloodlines were not an unquestionable symbol of supremacy. Divine bodies, powerful monstrous beast bloodlines, and other heavenly clans all stood upon the same vast stage. The outer world was not a place where Chu Feng's present advantages guaranteed victory. It was a place filled with others who possessed advantages of their own. Chu Feng suddenly released a long sigh.
Venja, what's wrong?
I've lived in this world for so long, and whenever I looked toward the vast starry sky, I always knew that I was small and ignorant. But knowing it is one thing. Having the truth confirmed, knowing beyond doubt that I really am that small and ignorant, doesn't feel particularly pleasant.
A wry smile appeared on Chu Feng's face. Here he was an exceptional genius who repeatedly overturned common sense. Yet once he stepped into the outer world, the brilliance surrounding his name would no longer guarantee that he stood above everyone else. He possessed a heavenly bloodline, but countless beings could challenge that advantage. Some might even stand far beyond him. To become the strongest among the younger generation of such a world would be unimaginably difficult. Yet perhaps this revelation was exactly what Chu Feng needed. A cultivator who believes he has already reached the summit has nowhere left to climb. Chu Feng had just discovered that the mountain beneath his feet was merely one peak beneath an endless sky. And for someone whose entire life had been forged by challenges stronger than himself, the terrifying road ahead might not simply be a warning. It might be the very road capable of pushing him toward heights the holy land of martialism could never provide.
Venja, there are differences even among heavenly bloodlines. Because the self-punishment mysterious technique you cultivate is the divine punishment mysterious technique. Once you become a martial ancestor and achieve the 9 lightnings fusion, you will obtain a divine mark. At that time, even within the outer world, you will still be a brilliant nova.
Those words restored a different kind of weight to Chu Feng's future. His current strength might not make him unrivaled, but the divine punishment mysterious technique had not yet revealed its final transformation. The divine mark and 9 lightnings fusion were not merely another increase in raw cultivation. Chu Xuanyuan's words implied that reaching martial ancestor would awaken a qualitative change in Chu Feng's heavenly bloodline, one significant enough to make him dazzling even by the standards of the outer world. But Chu Xuanyuan did not allow hope to become complacency.
However, although you are only 9 cultivation levels away from becoming a martial ancestor, that road is extraordinarily difficult.
As he spoke, Chu Xuanyuan produced another 20 gems. Every single one contained an astonishing quantity of natural energy. 20 such treasures together formed a reserve of cultivation power, vastly greater than the gem Chu Feng had just refined. Chu Xuanyuan casually tossed all 20 toward his son.
Refine all of them at once.
Yes.
Without hesitation, Chu Feng began refining every one of the 20 gems. Vast natural energy flooded into him again. One gem after another vanished beneath the refining force of his cultivation, until all 20 had been completely consumed. And then nothing happened. Not one breakthrough. Chu Feng remained a rank 1 Half Martial Ancestor. The natural energy had not vanished. Chu Feng could clearly sense the tremendous amount gathered within his dansha. By quantity alone, it should have been more than enough to push his cultivation forward. Yet between that boundless energy and his inherited bloodline stood something new, an invisible wall. Until that unseen barrier was broken, his inherited bloodline could not refine the accumulated natural energy. And if the bloodline could not refine it, Chu Feng could not advance. This was the true lesson hidden behind Chu Xuanyuan's 20 gems. The problem was no longer whether Chu Feng possessed enough cultivation resources. He already did. From the Half Martial Ancestor realm onward, simply swallowing greater quantities of natural energy would no longer guarantee progress. His next breakthroughs demanded something beyond accumulation. He had to overcome the invisible barriers tied to his cultivation and inherited bloodline. The rules of his path had changed. At last Chu Feng understood why his father had warned that the 9 levels separating him from martial ancestor would be so difficult. The treasures were there. The natural energy was there. His dantian was filled with power. But the road itself had erected a gate before him. And perhaps that was the most important breakthrough of this entire moment, not the leap into rank 1 half martial ancestor, but Chu Feng's realization that from this point onward, his cultivation journey had entered an entirely different world. The next 9 steps would not be bought by resources alone. They would have to be conquered. Within Chu Feng's dantian, the accumulated natural energies had already reached an astonishing level. By ordinary standards, that vast reserve should have been enough to carry him all the way to rank 3 half martial ancestor. Yet cultivation was never decided by energy alone.
The natural energies contained in your dantian right now are sufficient for you to reach rank 3 half martial ancestor. However, you are unable to even reach rank 2 half martial ancestor. That means you have encountered a bottleneck. From this point onward, you must rely on your own comprehension of the martial paths and find a way to use your inherited bloodline to break through it.
This was the true difference between possessing power and understanding power. Chu Feng did not lack energy. What blocked him was comprehension. No mountain of cultivation resources could simply smash through a barrier rooted in the martial path itself. But Chu Xuanyuan's warning had only begun. The divine punishment mysterious technique had granted Chu Feng extraordinary potential, yet every future breakthrough would demand a price worthy of that power.
Even after you break through, that bottleneck advancing will no longer be as straightforward as it was before. Each breakthrough will summon a catastrophe. Divine lightnings possessing terrifying destructive power will descend from the heavens and strike your body. Only by enduring those divine lightnings will you truly complete your breakthrough. That is because you have successfully learned the highest level self-punishing mysterious technique, the divine punishment mysterious technique.
The words seemed to carry the weight of heavenly thunder. Chu Feng had obtained a supreme mysterious technique, but supremacy came chained to calamity. Every ascent in cultivation would become a confrontation with the heavens themselves. In other words, Chu Feng's future path had become brutally simple. Comprehend the next realm, gather enough natural energies, and then survive heavenly punishment. Missing any one of those 3 conditions could halt his cultivation entirely. The technique strengthened his road, but it also narrowed it into a path where weakness would be mercilessly exposed. Chu Xuanyuan then gave another warning, one concerning the resources required to sustain such terrifying cultivation.
There is another extremely important matter. Although breaking through will become far more difficult after learning the divine punishment mysterious technique, the amount of natural energies you require will also become increasingly frightening. I will no longer provide you with cultivation resources. I have already given you everything that I can. From now on you must search for them yourself, compete for them yourself, and seize the opportunities you require with your own ability. You may regard this as our family's special method of nurturing its descendants. Your grandfather demanded the same thing of me back then.
There was no cruelty in those words. Chu Xuanyuan was deliberately removing the shelter above his son's head. A cultivator who forever depended upon treasures placed into his hands could never truly dominate the martial world.
Father, I understand. I will absolutely not disappoint you.
Chu Feng understood the meaning behind everything his father had done. The divine punishment mysterious technique was undoubtedly a rare and extraordinary treasure, and without Chu Xuanyuan, Chu Feng would never have possessed the opportunity to cultivate it. It was a blessing from his father, but also an expectation. Chu Feng wanted to prove through the divine punishment mysterious technique that his father's faith had not been misplaced. Yet his ambition reached further than earning Chu Xuanyuan's approval. He wanted the acknowledgement of everyone who had ever doubted him. And Chu Feng understood something crucial. Recognition, borrowed from his father's reputation, would never truly belong to him. If he wished his name to stand on its own, then each future breakthrough had to be carved out by his own hands. From this moment onward, his cultivation would no longer merely be inheritance, it would become proof.
Very well. You are indeed worthy of being my Chu Xuanyuan's son.
Seeing that Chu Feng showed not the slightest trace of fear before such a punishing road, Chu Xuanyuan smiled. There was unmistakable joy in that smile, and the pride of a father who had seen his son choose hardship without hesitation. Then Chu Xuanyuan turned to the matter of the outer world.
I already know that you intend to go to the outer world. Before you leave, there are several things I must tell you.
Although the Chu heavenly clan treated us father and son heartlessly, we cannot therefore become disloyal to the entire Chu heavenly clan. Matters cannot be generalized. There were indeed people within the Chu clan who secretly attacked us, but that does not mean every member of the Chu heavenly clan wished us harm. When the Chu clan's clan chief decided to imprison us in the forbidden area, many members of the clan pleaded on our behalf. Therefore, once you enter the outer world, if you encounter people from the Chu heavenly clan, it would be best not to treat them all with hostility.
His voice then hardened.
However, if someone from the Chu heavenly clan intends to harm you, then you must not show them benevolence either.
Chu Xuanyuan was teaching restraint, not submission. Gratitude and hatred had to be separated clearly. To condemn an entire clan for the crimes of several enemies would be blind vengeance. To spare genuine enemies merely because they shared his bloodline would be equally foolish.
Father, rest assured. I understand what you mean. I am not going to the Chu heavenly clan for revenge. I am going to make them realize that the decision they made back then was wrong. But if someone from the Chu heavenly clan tries to harm me, I will absolutely not be lenient. Whether they are people who attack me in the future or people who secretly attacked you in the past, I will not spare them.
A faint chill flashed through Chu Feng's eye. There was no wild rage, there only resolve. He would not seek enemies without cause, but once a debt of blood was confirmed, he had no intention of pretending it did not exist.
Good. To distinguish clearly between gratitude and grudges, that is how my Chu Xuanyuan's son should conduct himself.
Satisfied, Chu Xuanyuan finally revealed where Chu Feng's stairway to heaven would lead.
After leaving this place, you will not immediately arrive at the upper realm, where our Chu heavenly clan resides. Instead, you will enter the Hundred Refinements Ordinary Realm.
The Hundred Refinements Ordinary Realm is a place that everyone from the lower realms governed by our Chu heavenly clan must pass through.
Every year, countless cultivators would ascend from their respective lower realms and arrive there only to discover that reaching a higher world did not mean their struggles were over. It meant their tempering had begun anew.
The meaning of the name Hundred Refinements is precisely that to refine and temper oneself hundreds and thousands of times. Those who cannot pass the trials of the Hundred Refinements Ordinary Realm will never obtain the qualifications to enter an upper realm. They may remain there for the rest of their lives, or at most travel to other ordinary realms, but without sufficient qualifications, the gate to an upper realm will remain closed to them.
For cultivators of the lower realms, the Hundred Refinements Ordinary Realm was therefore both opportunity and judgment. Reaching it meant escaping the ceiling of one world, yet failing, there could simply replace that old ceiling with a much larger one. Chu Xuanyuan continued explaining the 100 Refinements Stage, the gathering point through which almost every newly arrived lower realm cultivator had to pass.
The 100 Refinements Stage is normally sealed, and opens only once each year. Thus everyone who arrives from the lower realms during that year will eventually gather there and cultivate together. When its gate opens, those cultivators will be ranked according to their strength. Every year the various powers of the 100 Refinements Ordinary Realm wait outside the 100 Refinements Stage for that ranking to appear. They select disciples according to the ranking. Naturally, those who rank higher will attract greater attention and be sought after by stronger powers.
For countless young cultivators, that ranking could decide the direction of their entire future. A strong placement might open the gates of a mighty power. A poor showing might leave them struggling for years, without guidance or backing.
If you enter the 100 Refinements Ordinary Realm through the stairway to heaven in the realm of gods, you will arrive directly at the 100 Refinements Stage. However, I do not recommend competing for a high rank there. You are not truly someone from a lower realm. You belong to an upper realm. There is little meaning in competing for status against cultivators, whose starting point is completely different from yours.
This was not arrogance for arrogance's sake. Chu Xuanyuan wanted Chu Feng to avoid unnecessary fame. A dazzling ranking might earn admiration, but it could also expose his strength and identity before he understood the forces operating in this unfamiliar world.
Therefore I will give you this.
Chu Xuanyuan produced a world spirit key and placed it into Chu Feng's hands.
Father, what is this?
This world spirit key can create an opening in the spirit formation surrounding the 100 Refinements Stage. Once you enter, you do not need to remain there until the normal opening. Use this key, leave the stage, and experience the outside world yourself.
Understood.
Chu Feng carefully stored the key, yet almost immediately another thought entered his mind.
Then what about the Eastern Sea region's stairway to heaven?
The Eastern Sea region also possesses a stairway to heaven.
For once surprise appeared in Chu Xuanyuan's voice. Evidently, even he had not known of its existence.
There is indeed one in the Eastern Sea region.
The teleportation route of the ancestral martial lower realms stairway to heaven has already been altered. Unless the stairway you speak of was established by an extraordinarily powerful individual, or possesses a method capable of concealing itself from everything, it should still lead to the 100 Refinements Ordinary Realm.
Hearing that, Chu Feng immediately considered someone else who might one day use that path.
Father, in that case, could you give me another world spirit key? I have a friend here. If she enters the 100 Refinements Ordinary Realm and does not wish to remain trapped within the 100 Refinements Stage, I hope.
That is no issue.
Before Chu Feng could even finish explaining, Chu Xuanyuan produced a second world spirit key and handed it over.
Thank you, Father.
Chu Feng accepted it with genuine emotion. As a world spiritist, he could immediately perceive how formidable the key was. Without his father's assistance, even Chu Feng himself would likely have been unable to force his way out of the 100 Refinement Stage. The second key was intended for Xianxia. Even while preparing to enter a world far more dangerous than anything he had previously known, Chu Feng had not forgotten a friend who might follow the same road. That small request said much about him. Ambition pushed him forward, but he did not intend to climb by forgetting those beside him. Chu Xuanyuan's expression then grew serious once more. The 100 Refinements Ordinary Realm might be merely an ordinary realm, but to someone arriving from a lower realm, it was an entirely new battlefield.
Fenrir, although an ordinary realm cannot compare with an upper realm, neither can it be compared with a lower realm. Entering an ordinary realm from a lower realm is equivalent to stepping into an entirely new world. Until you possess sufficient strength, it would be best not to provoke powers that are exceedingly formidable.
Then came a name Chu Xuanyuan considered important enough to single out from all the forces of the 100 Refinements Ordinary Realm.
Among them, there is one power you must pay particular attention to the Infant Soul Sect. It is the most dangerous power in the Hundred Refinements Ordinary Realm. If you encounter its people, you must be exceptionally cautious. You absolutely cannot afford to be careless around them.
Infant Soul Sect.
A cold sensation stirred within Chu Feng merely from hearing the name. Whatever sort of organization carried such a title, his instincts told him it was unlikely to be righteous.
Father, rest assured, I will definitely be careful.
Chu Xuanyuan nodded.
Although you must keep a low profile, after entering the Hundred Refinements Ordinary Realm, your father still has a mission for you.
Chu Feng answered without hesitation.
What mission? Father, please tell me.
Chu Xuanyuan had just spent all this time warning his son not to provoke mighty forces. He had specifically named the Infant Soul Sect as the single most dangerous power in the realm, and then with perfect calm, he delivered a command that turned all of those warnings upside down.
Eliminate the Infant Soul Sect.
Chu Feng froze on the spot. The contradiction was almost absurd. Stay low-key, avoid provoking powerful forces, and destroy the most dangerous sect in the entire Hundred Refinements Ordinary Realm. Yet that contradiction also revealed something important. Chu Xuanyuan was not sending Chu Feng there merely to survive. He was sending him there to grow, until a force that initially demanded caution could eventually be erased by his own hands. And for anyone following Chu Feng's journey, this mission changes the meaning of the road ahead. The Hundred Refinements Ordinary Realm is no longer simply the next destination. It has already become the stage for a future reckoning. The only question is how far Chu Feng must climb before he possesses the strength to carry out his father's astonishing command. The request from his father struck Chu Feng with unexpected weight. Chu Xuanyuan had only just warned him that the Infant Soul Sect was terrifyingly dangerous, yet now he wanted his own son to destroy it.
Why do you want me to eliminate the Infant Soul Sect? Could there be some grudge between you and them, Father?
Chu Feng could think of only one explanation. His father never spoke without purpose. If such a dangerous task had been placed before him, perhaps the Infant Soul Sect had once crossed Chu Xuanyuan.
There is no grudge between the Infant Soul Sect and me. They are simply an evil power. Do you know why they are called the Infant Soul Sect? Every member of that sect uses the souls of newborn infants as cultivation resources. The longer the Infant Soul Sect exists, the more innocent infants will die at their hands. For that reason alone, they deserve to be eliminated.
The truth was even darker than Chu Feng had expected. Those cultivators were not merely ruthless toward their enemies. Their path of cultivation itself was built upon the lives of beings who had only just entered the world.
They truly deserve to die.
Chu Feng had always despised those who preyed upon the old, the weak, the sick, and the defenseless. Yet the Infant Soul Sect had descended even lower. They stole away lives before those lives had the chance to see the vastness of the world, to understand joy or sorrow, or even to know what sort of world they had been born into. This was more than a clash between righteous and demonic cultivators. In Chu Feng's eyes, the Infant Soul Sect represented the kind of cruelty for which strength itself became a crime when wielded against those unable to resist.
Although the Infant Soul Sect ought to be destroyed, many powers cultivate using similarly malicious methods. Eliminating every one of them would be extremely difficult. Therefore, removing an evil from the Hundred Refinements Ordinary Realm is only one reason I want you to destroy them. There is another reason, and that reason is even more important.
Father, please continue.
Chu Feng's expression turned serious. He knew that the heart of this request was finally about to be revealed.
In order to nurture exceptional members of the younger generation, the Chu Heavenly Clan employs certain extreme methods. Its juniors are sent out to accept and complete missions. As far as I know, many of those missions are located within the Hundred Refinements Ordinary Realm.
Thus, although the Chu heavenly clan resides in an upper realm, members of the clan can also be found throughout the ordinary realms. Most of those people are members of the younger generation.
Then came the rule that made those missions truly merciless.
Once a junior of the Chu heavenly clan willingly enters the Hundred Refinements Ordinary Realm to carry out a mission, that junior will no longer receive the clan's protection. Even if that person encounters a fatal danger, the clan will not interfere. In other words, within the Hundred Refinements Ordinary Realm, whether those juniors live or die depends entirely upon themselves.
The Chu heavenly clan was using genuine danger as a whetstone. Protection could preserve a genius, but excessive protection could also leave that genius incapable of surviving once the shelter disappeared. Their method was cruel, yet its purpose was unmistakable. Only those capable of walking through death on their own were worth truly nurturing.
Among those missions, one of the highest ranked and most difficult is the destruction of the Infant Soul Sect. However, to this day, not a single member of the Chu heavenly clan's younger generation has succeeded. Instead, many elite juniors of our clan were killed by the Infant Soul Sect. As the years passed, the Infant Soul Sect gradually stopped fearing the Chu heavenly clan. After all, they had killed so many of the clan's geniuses and still remained unharmed.
Only then did the full shape of the situation emerge. The Infant Soul Sect had survived not because the Chu heavenly clan lacked the strength to destroy it, but because the clan had deliberately left it standing.
So the Chu heavenly clan deliberately ignored them. All because the clan wanted to use the Infant Soul Sect to nurture its younger generation.
Correct. The Infant Soul Sect has committed countless evils within the Hundred Refinements Ordinary Realm. Yet if the Chu heavenly clan truly wished to eradicate it, doing so would require almost no effort. The clan leaves it there and repeatedly assigns the mission to its younger generation, because it hopes that one day one of those juniors will possess enough ability to destroy the Infant Soul Sect personally. Ever since that mission was established, however, not a single junior of the Chu heavenly clan has managed to complete it.
At that moment, Chu Feng finally understood his father's true intention.
Father, I understand.
This was a mission that had defeated generation after generation of Chu heavenly clan geniuses. Yet Chu Feng was the very person whom that clan had once judged to be trash, someone supposedly lacking the heavenly bloodline and unworthy of retaining his status within the clan. If the discarded Chu Feng accomplished what the celebrated geniuses of the Chu heavenly clan could not, the victory would speak louder than any accusation. He would not need to slaughter his clansmen or demand an apology. The achievement itself would become a ruthless answer to the judgment once passed upon him.
There is an age restriction on the mission. Members of the Chu heavenly clan who are older than 40 are forbidden from accepting it. Xianxia, you are still comfortably within that limit. You have not even reached 30. Of course, you do not need to formally accept the mission from the Chu heavenly clan. You can simply destroy the Infant Soul Sect yourself. Nominally, you are no longer even a member of the clan. But regardless of who does it, if someone younger than 40 succeeds in destroying the Infant Soul Sect, that alone will become a disgrace to the Chu heavenly clan.
Chu Feng's guess had been correct. His father intended to humiliate the Chu heavenly clan. Chu Xuanyuan had no intention of massacring the people of his own clan. What he wanted was for them to understand one simple truth. The decision they had made concerning Chu Feng all those years ago had been a mistake. There was something far sharper than vengeance hidden inside this plan. Chu Xuanyuan did not want his son's worth established through his father's reputation. He wanted Chu Feng to carve the answer into the martial world with his own accomplishments. But before Chu Feng could become carried away by that goal, Chu Xuanyuan's expression turned solemn.
Xianxia, there is something I must warn you about. While you remained here, I sent someone to protect you secretly. But once you enter the outer world, I will absolutely not intervene to help you. Everything must depend upon yourself.
Those words drew a clear boundary. Beyond the gate to the outer world, Chu Feng would no longer be a son traveling beneath his father's unseen protection. His victories, his mistakes, his injuries, and even his survival would belong to him alone.
I understand. I will not act recklessly. The Infant Soul Sect's actions are infuriating, but before I possess enough strength to confront them, I will definitely not make them my enemy.
That answer revealed an important change in Chu Feng. Hatred alone would not dictate his actions. Against an enemy powerful enough to destroy Chu heavenly clan elite's righteous anger, without sufficient cultivation, would be nothing more than throwing one's life away. Knowing when not to strike was itself part of surviving the martial path.
Good. Then go forward into the outer world. I have already accepted Xialing as my disciple. When the proper time comes, I will have her go there and assist you.
The stern atmosphere vanished from Chu Feng's face in an instant.
Father, you really accepted Xialing as your disciple.
Joy surged through him. Chu Feng still could not measure the true depths of his father's strength. Yet everything he had witnessed told him that Chu Xuanyuan was an existence of extraordinary power. If Xialing could genuinely receive his father's guidance, then her cultivation would have an opportunity to advance enormously. For Xialing it was a priceless opportunity. For Chu Feng, seeing someone precious to him obtain such a path was equally worth celebrating.
Why would I deceive you about something like that? Xiling's foundation is fairly good. If she is properly nurtured, she will be capable of accomplishing something even within the outer world.
However, Fenja, there are many people in this world with good foundations. If they cannot expand upon those foundations themselves, then possessing them is ultimately useless. No one has endless time to help another person develop their potential. Xialing happens to belong to the kind of person whose potential requires assistance from someone else. That is why I believe you should understand the reason I am helping her.
I understand.
Of course he understood. Chu Xuanyuan was investing this effort into Xialing because of Chu Feng. Xialing was someone deeply important to his son, and so his father was willing to give her the guidance her potential required.
It is good that you understand. Xialing's potential requires me to draw it out. But you are different. Your potential must be developed by you.
Then Chu Xuanyuan revealed something that made his philosophy toward Chu Feng completely clear.
In truth, I could nurture you completely myself. I could keep you under my protection until you became powerful enough to contend against others, before allowing you to leave. But I fear that although doing so might allow you to become extremely powerful within a short period, your future achievements would instead become limited. If that happened, the short-term gains would not compensate for what you lost in the future. The martial paths must be viewed over the long term. That is why I hope you can understand my intentions.
This was the real difference between receiving resources and forging oneself. Chu Xuanyuan could undoubtedly make Chu Feng stronger faster, but cultivation was not merely the accumulation of power. Experience, comprehension, danger choices, and the ability to break through one's own limits were things no father could simply hand to his son. And perhaps this was also why Chu Xuanyuan's refusal felt harsher, precisely because he cared so deeply. Giving Chu Feng everything might have been easier for both of them. Refusing to do so meant trusting his son to walk a much harder road.
Father, rest assured, I will diligently comprehend my own path of martial cultivation.
Good. I know my Fenja possesses perseverance. In that respect, you resemble both me and your grandfather.
He
Chu Feng could not suppress his proud laughter. To others such praise might have sounded simple. To him it carried extraordinary weight. Both his father and grandfather were grand existences, whose reputations resounded throughout the outer world. To be told that his perseverance resembled theirs was in Chu Feng's heart one of the greatest compliments he could receive. Yet Chu Feng was still Chu Feng. Even after accepting his father's stern lesson about independence, another thought quickly surfaced in his mind.
Father, you said that once I enter the outer world you will no longer help me. But I have not entered the outer world yet. So can you still help me with something now?
Chu Xuanyuan seemed to see straight through the possibility that his son was trying to squeeze out one last advantage before leaving.
Venger, if what you want is more cultivation resources, there is no need for you to ask.
His answer was immediate, cold, and decisive. On the matter of raising Chu Feng's cultivation through outside assistance, Chu Xuanyuan would not yield even a single step.
Father, rest assured. When it comes to cultivation, I will depend entirely upon myself. I will not ask you for help. What I want your assistance with is something else.
The severity in Chu Xuanyuan's manner eased slightly, as long as the request was unrelated to artificially increasing Chu Feng's cultivation. There was room to hear it.
What is it? Tell me.
And with those words, the conversation shifted once again. Chu Feng had accepted the burden of the Infant Soul Sect, understood the challenge hidden behind the Chu heavenly clan's mission, and learned exactly how far his father's protection would extend. Yet before stepping toward the outer world, he still had one request left to make. What he intended to ask of Chu Xuanyuan had yet to be revealed. Within that secluded place, the reunion between father and son had already moved beyond simple words of affection. Chu Feng had crossed countless dangers to reach this point, and now that Chu Xuanyuan stood before him, there were matters buried in his heart that only his father might be able to unravel.
There are 3 matters in which I hope Father can assist me. First, I want to discover where the Moon Immortal has gone. She is still occupying Su Ru and Su Mei's bodies, and I want to bring them back. Second, I want Father to examine the 4 great divine beasts. The Magma Emperor said they would not survive for much longer, yet no matter how carefully I examined them, I could find nothing wrong with their bodies.
These were not idle curiosities. Su Mei the azure dragon, the white tiger, the vermilion bird, and the black tortoise were all beings Chu Feng deeply cared about. For Chu Feng's strength had never been pursued merely so that he could stand above others. Again and again, the people beside him became the reason he needed greater strength in the first place. Chu Xuanyuan answered the first question without hesitation.
The Moon Immortal has already entered the outer world. If you intend to search for her, then the place you must search is the outer world.
Chu Feng was stunned. The words struck him far more heavily than he expected.
She entered the outer world.
She most likely did not use a stairway to heaven. She should have relied upon some kind of treasure capable of carrying her beyond this world. A stairway to heaven is a formation that may be used repeatedly. The means employed by the Moon Immortal was likely different, a treasure whose power could only be activated once.
The distinction was important. A stairway to heaven was a stable passage between realms, but the Moon Immortal had apparently possessed something far rarer and far less predictable. That meant Chu Feng could not simply follow her trail. Her destination depended entirely upon the origins and design of the treasure she had used.
Then could she presently be within the 100 Refinements Ordinary Realm's 100 Refinements Stage?
Possibly, but not necessarily. It depends upon who created that treasure, and where its power was intended to send its user. There is another matter you should understand. That so-called Moon Immortal was originally someone from the outer world.
Another revelation descended. The mysterious existence who had appeared through Su Ru and Su Mei had never truly belonged to the holy land of martialism.
Moreover, I do not believe her nature is wicked. Had she been evil, she would not have aided you before. She did not assist you merely out of righteousness. Rather, she believed herself indebted to you. Someone like that is unlikely to harm Su Ru and Su Mei. You need not be excessively worried about their safety.
I understand.
Chu Feng was still astonished by the Moon Immortal's true origin, but he had absolute confidence in his father's judgment. If Chu Xuanyuan spoke with such certainty, Chu Feng had little reason to doubt him.
Yet another concern immediately rose to the surface.
Then what of the 4 great divine beasts? Are their lives truly in danger?
This was precisely why Chu Feng had brought them here. From the moment he decided to meet his father, he had hoped Chu Xuanyuan would personally inspect the azure dragon, white tiger, vermilion bird, and black tortoise. Chu Xuanyuan turned toward the 4 great divine beasts. His gaze rested upon them for some time, calm and penetrating, as though the mysteries hidden within their very existence could not escape his eyes.
The azure dragon, white tiger, vermilion bird, and black tortoise are known in legend as the 4 symbols divine beasts. If those legendary beings truly existed, their might should be overwhelming. How could such existences possess only the cultivation of half martial ancestors? Therefore the 4 beings you know are merely life forms created after a divine power was separated.
Those few words shattered the identity the 4 had carried for so long. They were not genuine divine beasts. They were not sacred beasts. Chu Xuanyuan went even further.
Strictly speaking, they cannot even be regarded as beasts. Originally, they should have existed as a divine power, accompanying their master. Once they could no longer accompany that master, they should have faded away.
This explained the mystery that Chu Feng himself could not diagnose. Their problem was not an injury poison curse or damaged cultivation foundation. Their very state of existence was unstable. They had become independent lives, even though they had originally been components of another cultivator's divine power.
Then does that mean they truly cannot continue living for much longer?
If their present condition continues, then yes. Their existence will eventually come to an end. If you wish for them to survive, then they must relinquish their physical bodies and their freedom. They must return to the form of secret skills and reside within your body.
Chu Feng fell silent. Survival had been placed on one side of the scale. Freedom stood upon the other. He did not know how he could possibly say such a thing to the azure dragon and the others. To reveal this truth was also to admit something far more painful. The Magma Emperor had not fabricated everything. King Xianxia truly had abandoned the 4 great divine beasts. And that was what made the choice cruel. Becoming Chu Feng's secret skills could preserve their existence, but the price was the independent lives they had come to treasure. This was not merely a cultivation problem. It was a question of whether existence without freedom was preferable to freedom that would eventually end.
I possess a method capable of restoring them to the form of secret skills and allowing them to return to your body. If you truly wish for them to continue existing, then you must tell them the truth. There is something else, Fenja. Although they are not the legendary 4 symbols divine beasts, what they possess truly is 4 symbols divine power. Among the many divine powers that exist, the 4 symbols divine power is exceptionally formidable.
Chu Xuanyuan's expression carried genuine puzzlement.
What I cannot understand is why their original master would risk his life to separate such a powerful divine power from himself. Doing so is equivalent to personally stripping away an extraordinary gift.
It became clear that even Chu Xuanyuan did not know the full history between King Xianxia and the 4 great divine beasts.
Father, this is what I was told happened.
Chu Feng then recounted everything he knew, the history concerning King Xianxia, the 4 great divine beasts, and the accusations spoken by the Magma Emperor. What Chu Feng wanted was not merely confirmation of facts. He wanted Chu Xuanyuan to judge the motives behind them. From everything Chu Feng had learned about King Xianxia, that legendary senior simply did not resemble an evil man. After listening, Chu Xuanyuan offered his judgment.
In my view, the Magma Emperor's words cannot be trusted completely. However, neither can they be dismissed entirely. There should be some truth within them. After all, what martial cultivators pursue is power. On the road of cultivation, one is often forced to make choices for the sake of obtaining greater strength.
Then Chu Xuanyuan turned the question back upon his own son.
Venja, suppose there existed a bloodline even more powerful than your heavenly lightning bloodline, one that could allow you to become stronger at a far greater speed. Would you abandon your heavenly lightning bloodline in exchange for it?
For once, Chu Feng had no immediate answer. The heavenly lightning bloodline had accompanied him throughout his entire path of cultivation. He had never seriously imagined discarding it for something greater. The question exposed one of the harshest truths of the martial world. Cultivators constantly praise loyalty, inheritance, and destiny. Yet cultivation itself demands advancement. When a stronger path appears, refusing it can mean stagnation, defeat, or death. The choice may look simple from afar, but it becomes far more complicated when the power being discarded carries history, identity, and emotional meaning.
I believe you might choose to abandon the heavenly lightning bloodline. There would be nothing shameful about such a decision. Consider your friend Jiang Washang. One could describe what happened to him pleasantly, and say that his inherited bloodline advanced from a royal bloodline to an imperial bloodline. But viewed from another perspective, he abandoned the power bestowed upon him by his parents because he desired something stronger. If judged from a certain angle, some might claim that decision was wrong. Yet no one blamed him. His clansmen regarded him as their pride. Why? Because he obtained the power they themselves yearned to possess.
Chu Xuanyuan then linked that example directly to King Xianxia.
I suspect King Xianxia abandoned the Four Symbols' divine power for the same reason, to pursue an even stronger divine power.
If Chu Xuanyuan's deduction was correct, then King Xianxia's decision was not necessarily born from cruelty. It may simply have been the ruthless logic of cultivation. Relinquish one extraordinary gift in order to seize another that could carry him even farther. That does not erase the suffering experienced by the four great divine beasts, but it changes the meaning behind the act.
Father, then are you saying Senior King Xuanyuan was not a bad person?
Chu Xuanyuan did not give him the simple answer he was seeking.
A person's moral character cannot be determined merely from what appears on the surface.
Then, like a master guiding a disciple through a difficult principle, Chu Xuanyuan constructed an example.
Imagine two men. The first is honest and kind-hearted. Throughout his life he performs many good deeds and secretly helps many people. Yet because he does not care for fame or profit, he never tells anyone what he has done. He also loves his wife deeply. Yet his wife betrays him. Together with another man, she plans to kill him and seize his wealth and property. When he discovers the truth, grief overwhelms him. He argues with his wife and desperately tries to make her abandon her plan. But during that confrontation, he accidentally kills her.
The tragedy did not end with the death. In Chu Xuanyuan's example, what followed was judgment by people who knew only the visible outcome.
Naturally, he attempts to explain what happened. Yet he possesses no evidence, and therefore no one believes him. Instead, everyone condemns him. They say his character is vile, that he murdered a good wife, and then slandered her in an attempt to excuse his crime. They curse him as a disgrace among men, someone beneath even pigs and dogs. And among those cursing him are people he once helped in secret.
Reputation in such a case becomes the opposite of truth. Good deeds that were never witnessed offer no defense, while a single visible tragedy becomes enough for the world to define an entire lot. Chu Xuanyuan was warning Chu Feng against judging King Xianxia through fragments of history spoken by others. Chu Xuanyuan then described the second man.
The second man appears completely different. In public he treats his wife well. He is courteous to others, generous, charitable, and always seen performing good deeds. Countless people praise him as a great philanthropist. They speak of his noble character, and even instruct their children to imitate him.
But beneath that flawless reputation lay another reality entirely.
In truth, that man frequently mistreats his parents and his wife. In secret he schemes against friends, frames others in order to seize their wealth, and even kills innocent people for profit. Yet no one knows about those deeds.
One man possesses a terrible reputation, despite having lived with kindness. The other possesses a glorious reputation, while hiding cruelty behind closed doors. Chu Xuanyuan's lesson was unmistakable. Public judgment records what people can see, not necessarily what is true. And in the martial world, where legends are carried across generations, by enemies, admirers, survivors, and victors, truth can become even harder to distinguish. This also casts King Xianxia in a far more intriguing light. Perhaps abandoning the four symbols' divine power was selfish. Perhaps it was necessary. Perhaps the Magma Emperor witnessed only one side of that ancient decision. Until King Xianxia's true circumstances are revealed, condemning or absolving him completely would both be premature. At last Chu Xuanyuan placed the heart of the lesson directly before his son.
Tell me, Fenja, of those two men, which one do you believe is truly good?